Don't you dare date any of your classmates if you're a guy and they're another guy. That's not allowed. I think it is time to talk about gay adoption. So HunterAvallone is somebody who, if I'm being honest, I am not a huge fan of HunterAvallone's debates. Can I be very blunt? I've never been a huge fan. I've hosted a few debates that he's been a part of, and sometimes I got rubbed. I don't want to say I disagreed a lot of times with his points. It was more that just the way he talked to people kind of always rubbed off on me as somewhat mightier than thou. And I imagine on somebody sitting on like the border, on like if you're in the middle ground or if you're on the other side, hearing what he says, it just kind of sounds a lot of times mightier than thou, or just the way he talks down to people sometimes kind of rubbed me the wrong way. That isn't to say that he isn't right a lot of the time, but I always thought that read that I got is doing more damage than the effectiveness of the debate style or the aggression he's showing. But I've been thinking to myself recently, like, is this a fair assessment of HunterAvallone? I mean, HunterAvallone did something that was very, very risky for himself by making a complete shift over from conservatism over to basically liberalism, like kind of turning around on his views on the majority of trans issues when he was doing like these skits that were getting tons and tons and tons of views about trans people, mocking them, turning that around and doing what he's doing now for, let's be frank, probably a lot less money, a lot less viewership, and a lot of ridicule from people who used to be his viewers, and probably led to him probably falling out of, I'm saying probably a lot, falling out of favor with a lot of former friends that he might have made in the conservative sphere. Some conservatives say that it's all a grift and that, you know, he was never truly conservative, or he's not liberal and this is just all make money and he's flying with the wind. I don't believe that, and I've been given no reason to believe that, and I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And so I wanted to sit down and watch another HunterAvallone debate to see, you know, if maybe my first assessments of him were incorrect. Now, if he performs well here, that doesn't mean that I didn't get the correct read all those other times, because this issue is kind of very, I'm not going to say divisive, but this is an issue where somebody getting angry and somebody getting heated and aggressive is a lot more understandable, because we're talking about splitting apart families. Because if we were to outlaw gay adoption, we're talking about splitting apart families, taking kids out of the arms of the parents who have been raising them, and making it so more children age out of the adoption system, where like a good 5 to 10 years after you age out of the adoption system, your rate of homelessness is like 40 to 45%. Insane levels. Rates of drug addiction, much higher than anything you could compare to being adopted by two gay parents. And it feels like this is more of a disgust response if you don't want gay people to adopt kids than, oh, I care so much about the children. Because if you cared so much about the children, your main priority would be making it a lot easier to adopt. Not when it comes to safety regulations, but when it comes to financial burdens that come with adopting, because adopting kids is really expensive, right? And that's a huge barrier for a lot of families who cannot, you know, naturally produce children or choose not to. Those are the things that I care about, getting as many kids adopted as possible, making it as easy as possible for the adoption process, and get these kids into homes as long as we're looking out for them and making sure they're safe. That's my priority. And if you're trying to take away more prospective parents from the pool of parents who are adopting, all it's going to lead to is more kids on drugs, more kids that are homeless, and more kids outside of a loving home. Because no matter what data you can find on gay parents, and most of the data I've seen seems to indicate that there's really no substantial difference, if there's any difference at all, in being raised by gay parents compared to straight parents. And so the idea that you're going to throw those children under the bus into possible higher rates of drug addiction and homelessness out of your disgust response, it feels like the kids are not the main priority for you. You and your personal feelings about homosexuality is the main priority for you. So I wanted to watch this debate that HunterAvallone had with Bryson Gray, I believe his name is, who's actually a pretty large conservative commentator. So it should be interesting to see this former conservative debate a quite large conservative today. Let's watch.
Okay, so first of all, Bryson, thanks so much for coming on. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, and then we can kind of jump into why I reached out and asked you to talk in the first place.
All right, Bryson Gray, Christian conservative rapper. Yeah, the most banned rapper alive and probably one of the most controversial people on the right.
Wow.
Here I am.
It's saying a lot, that's for sure. And yeah, I'm sure, I don't know if you know who I am. I know I reached out to you and let you know that I am a soy boy libcuck who's very pro LGBT. So this should be quite an interesting discussion, to say the least.
Yeah, I think you were triggered by my hoodie.
I was very triggered, yeah, and I think that that's where we'll probably jump right into the combo. So this is what I saw the other day on Twitter, you wearing this shirt that says "Make America Straight Again," and upon
Typical lefty disinformation. That's a hoodie, not a shirt. He's already lost the debate. Once again, I was proven right. Just kidding, of course.
seeing this, I did melt down a little bit. I had to sip some soy and hide in my safe space, but after a while, I decided, yeah, just a little bit. But afterwards, I decided, you know, I think I gotta actually confront you about this. Okay.
Awesome.
So yeah, do you want to explain like what your goal is with this hoodie? And I obviously have a few questions. The first one being, how exactly would you go about making America straight again?
Okay, so the reason I wear that hoodie, not only that hoodie, I wear other controversial gear. And the reason why is we need to normalize offending people. I travel a bunch, and when I travel,
dude, okay. Can I just be for real? Normalize offending people is the worst reason you could have a political opinion, a political take, or do something politically, right? Like I'll say like, oh, I said that just to piss them off, and I'll say that, and I don't say that with like pride, but like if I really don't like somebody, sometimes I'll say something just to piss them off because I don't like them. I feel like everybody does that to a degree, where you just put a few extra words in there that you know are just gonna get under their skin, right? People do this in interpersonal interactions, and people do this on Twitter all the time, right? But when it comes down to it, it's not a good defense for doing something, right? Like if I was to just come out and be like, I believe Jesus Christ was a lesbian and a cuckold. I believe that he was very into cuckoldry, right? And I'm just in church saying that, like, hey everybody, I just want to let everybody know Jesus said it. Like, and afterwards, like, oh, but I just, you know, free speech is so important, and that was the main reason I was doing that. That's a bad reason. Like all that means is you're an asshole more than you're like a political activist. So like there should be like a substantial point behind something. You can say something that's a substantial point in an offensive way, but just being offensive for offensive sake it's not good politics. It's not even good comedy.
a bunch LGBT people are not afraid to wear their, you know, pride shirts, and I don't know if it's just started happening, but I started seeing an uptick in people wearing like purposefully blasphemous shirts.
Okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like anti-Jesus shirts, really, but they're probably atheists. I mean, I don't talk to them, but I started to see an uptick in that, which is your prerogative. You know, free speech, freedom of expression, do what you wish.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people on the right are afraid to do the same. So really, we need to normalize offending people. And people like me, I really don't care. So I'm gonna wear what I want. And
Yeah,
so
sure.
things like LGBT, liberty, gun, Bible's truth. I wear that hoodie around. Make America Straight Again seems to be the crowd favorite. So
Okay.
promise, not pride. You know, things like that. So I do it as a psychology experiment to see how triggered. Honestly, to see
The psychological experiment.
how triggered.
Here's an example. I went to the January 6th protest in a Biden hoodie. Now, did I do that in part just to be like, hey, this is my community. I don't care if this pisses you off. I'm allowed to. Free speech. In part. But also, if you would ask me, did I support Joe Biden in 2020? Absolutely. And I can give you the reasons why. So there was a substantive point behind it, right? Like, if you just offend everybody, then everybody turns their attention to you, like Hunter is doing right now, saying, okay, what do you have to say? Then you should have something to say, or then you're just an attention whore.
Triggered I can make you by not saying anything. So if you're triggered by a hoodie,
That's one of the main problems I have with a lot of times, like Alex Steins, is like it feels like sometimes he's trying to do serious political commentary, then he does something that's like really gross, like going up to Ukrainian refugees who are protesting and be like, oh, you guys, you're fighting for a reality TV show, TV star, and then like they get angry and respond. He's like, fuck you, asshole, da da da, and then he won't have like a substantial point behind it. Right. And that's what I have a problem with a lot of times, is there's no substantive point behind a lot of this offensive culture. Right. You can be offensive. Just have a point behind it. Just make sure that when you ask for attention and we serve the attention you ordered, that it wasn't for nothing.
and that upset you, because the reason I posted the picture originally is because an event happened at the airport where a liberal girl decided to say something to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, asked me, what does it mean? Obviously, she knows what it meant. But then when I told her, long story short, she ended up calling the police, and it was a interesting situation. I'm thinking in my mind, like, wow,
That's definitely ridiculous. Well,
Yeah,
if I could
people
cut
let
in
me
real quick,
control-
because I'm with you. I think that, yeah, there's certainly a problem with people being way too sensitive. Even as, again, myself as a libcuck soy boy, I actually managed to offend people quite a lot as well. So I'm totally with you there, that I do agree that encouraging people to have a thicker skin can absolutely be beneficial. I'm with you there. But my problem with this is really that, well, two things is that, one, I don't think just offending people by itself is necessarily a good thing.
Yep.
I don't think it
There
is
it is.
necessarily a bad thing, but I think it really depends how you're offending people. So, for example, I think quite a few people would be offended if I showed up wearing a shirt that said, like, Black people aren't human. That would probably be offensive, but just because it's offensive doesn't mean that it's actually okay or a good thing for me to be, like, triggering people. So it's more so not so much like, oh, it's just offensive, but the message I don't really understand. Make America straight again. How would you accomplish this? Is this a goal, or is it literally just supposed to be, like, provocative with no further thought put into it?
Well, just to be clear, if a white guy walked in with a shirt, you know, a lot of people said this. What if somebody walked in with a shirt that said "Make America White Again"? I would honestly shake that person's hand for being bold enough to do it.
I could. Why?
Because I don't care how you really offend people, right? Because everybody else does.
Dude, I'm like, I just imagine somebody in front of Bryson Gray saying the most fucking racist, most anti-Semitic, most hateful thing you could imagine, yelling that at the top of his lungs in a Walmart, and a single tear goes down his eye, Bryson Gray's eyes. He's like, what a hero. And he goes up and he embraces the man to show his affection for his triggering of the libs, man. Very brave, very stunning.
Doesn't care.
But you should care to a degree, I would think. I mean, if somebody walked in a Klansman outfit, right, or if they were wearing a neo-Nazi armband, I mean, at some point you have to say, like, it's not just that it's offensive, it's that it's considered offensive or socially condemned because it's wrong and incorrect and could potentially lead to harm against people.
No, I disagree. Like, I wouldn't really care if somebody wore a neo-Nazi entire outfit.
Dude, okay, you know what? This would destroy Joe Biden's political career, obviously. Could you imagine if Joe Biden tomorrow just came out in the Klan hood and was like, Bryson Gray said he wouldn't care, so the conservatives gave me the go-ahead. You guys already say Democratic Party of the Klan. Nobody can call me out. It's so silly. Like, come on. If Joe Biden wore a neo-Nazi armband and a Klan outfit, I 100% believe Bryson Gray and a million other people rightfully would be calling him out. Like, this is silly.
To be clear, that's their view. But at the same time, I do believe in, especially in real life and public, freedom of consequence also. So if a gay person got mad and decided to attack me, you know, you shouldn't attack people for shirts. But if you're going to trigger people, then you should be prepared for those type of reactions, which I am always prepared for.
Sure.
But so I think people should be wear whatever they want. Klansman hoodie, Make America White Again, because gay people, listen, I don't think, you know, I watched a debate with Don, who was a new Christian. Do you understand what the Bible says about homosexuality, right?
Well, sure, and I'm fine having that conversation. But before we go there, I want to just take a step back, because I'm fine having that conversation. Don't get me wrong. It's just that earlier you said, okay, well, you see a lot of gay people. They wear their sort of rainbow hoodies and stuff, so you want to wear your stuff as well. There's a couple things, though, is that, one, if somebody's just saying, like, hey, I'm gay, that's not really doing anything harmful. Whereas saying make America straight again, what does, I feel like you're not explaining to me or helping me understand, what does this mean? Does it mean get rid of gay people? Does it mean conversion therapy? What does it mean to make America straight again? Like, how would this be?
It is kind of like, what does it mean? That is a good question. What is
America less gay than it is now? But I mean, it's supposed to be.
What does that mean? Make America less gay than it is now? What does that mean? So we gotta, like, bring down what's our gay quota? How many gay people are allowed? Is it like 10%, 5%? What's the percentage quota for the sexual makeup of the United States? And how do we enact the policy of reducing that to the numbers that he wants? Could you, yo, you know, I really don't like abortion, but when it comes to making sure we keep the gay number down, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Like, I don't know, what does that mean? Like, make America less gay? What does that mean?
It's hilarious, but you sort of missed out something.
Well, hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, how would you go about making America less gay unless you're getting rid of gay people?
Wait. But before I get to that aspect, you seem to, I don't know if it was on purpose, to forget one point I made, though, about what people be wearing now. You said the easy part, but you sort of purposely missed out the last portion of that I said, didn't you?
The blasphemy shirts?
Yeah, they go around disrespecting Jesus all the time.
Okay, sure. Shirts. I mean, yeah, but I'm not over here defending people wearing blasphemous shirts. It would depend on the message. If it's saying like kill all Christians or Christians are subhuman or something, then yeah, I would probably say that also could be potentially harmful, and I wouldn't be in favor of that.
But I mean, it's not about you being. I want them to.
I want a shirt of Jesus doing a kickflip. That's what I want.
Like, if that's how you feel, that is how you feel. Where I don't care. It's just the fact that we need the same energy. So I'm not asking you to defend them or to go against them. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, because when you blaspheme, that's the most disrespectful thing you can do to a Christian. Mm-hmm. And most Christians will get very sensitive about that. They do all the time. But me, I said, instead of getting offended, let's see who can offend the other first. And the fact that I'm here now shows that I'm offended first. But said,
I don't understand. But you're not explaining to me how you would accomplish making America great.
I'm about to go into it. You just make certain points, and then I have to respond to all points. Easy to make America less gay is a simple way. We need to go back to this country, to go back to Christian values, because there's multiple studies that show that environment and.
Okay, wait. Well, let's bring this back in a second. Okay, I'll bring this back up. I follow the chief rabbi of Ukraine on Twitter. Is he gonna release a mixtape? Is he gonna release an anti-Russia diss track? We don't need no liberation. We're packing your cars full of lattes. What is he? Look, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to see whatever he releases. This post gets a like from me. I'm interested to see what he ends up releasing.
Christian values, because there's multiple studies that show that environment and influence leads to more people coming out as LGBT. Now, we can have a debate about why that is in the end, but the statistics do show that. And with that being said, if we stop showing it on TV, really, I'm very harsh on that. That shouldn't be a thing. And then if we stop
showing the gays on LGBT. So like what, like an anti-gay propaganda law like in Russia? There's a law that was passed in Russia, which is actually specifically designed to do what Bryson Gray is asking for here, which is it bans depictions on TV, books, media, like everything, of homosexuals. Gay people are not allowed in films, they're not allowed in books, and anything if there's a positive representation. Because the idea is that if there is a person out there who sees a positive representation of homosexuality, then they start to explore themselves, and they might end up finding out, oh, I'm attracted to men, or hey, you know, that thing I was pushing down all those years, you know, I think maybe it's time to accept it. And so they only allow negative representations of homosexuals in order to make Russia less gay. So if he wants a framework for legislation to build the type of thing he's asking for, that would probably be the closest, which I mean, obviously he doesn't want it done by government. Maybe he wants like private like institutions to try to like boycott TV shows for maybe showing gays or something. I don't know what his strategy is here. But putting that aside for a moment, we don't know exactly what makes somebody gay, but it is true that if you have a more welcoming environment, they're more likely to come out of the closet. The societies in the world that have the least amount of homosexuals in polling data, like say somewhere like Chechnya, are also terrible countries to live in for these people. And the reason why the polling data is so low is that they're too scared to publicly admit they're homosexual. And so the more and more welcoming you make your society to homosexuality, bisexuality, not only are people more likely to discover themselves, but they're more likely to be open and honest about who they are. If people are able to believe the idea of the shy Trump voter, the silent majority, is it really that impossible to believe that due to homophobic standards, where there's a lot of people who agree with Bryson Gray here, if you heard that your dad was listening to a Bryson Gray song, you might not want to tell him that you're gay because you don't know how he's going to react. So if you can believe the silent majority and the silent Trump voter in 2016, and that's why the polling data was off, then you can believe that that homophobia makes people not want to come out as gay. Not that it'll magically decrease the amount of male attraction by somebody by not saying being gay is okay. But also, we really don't know exactly what makes somebody homosexual or not homosexual. We know that to at least some extent it is biological, but there's a bunch of different studies on this type of stuff, and I don't want to get too much into the scientific specifics here.
Schools, like nobody's be able to show their homosexuality in schools because it's an abnormal thing. Then it wouldn't be influencing people, because a lot of kids now think it's I talk to a lot of parents and their kids come home from school and it's not even the popular thing is to claim to be something else. You can't just be normal, like heterosexual, because that's normal. You have to be a different gender. You have to claim to be something else. You have to, like, that's the cool thing to do nowadays. So
it's not the cool thing to do nowadays. I was in high school not too long ago. It wasn't cool to be gay. As far as I know, there was like, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 gay kids. I mean, obviously that number has gone up as more and more people came out of the closet, but the one's like, oh man, you're gay. Oh shit, dude. Oh my God. You want to smoke some pot? Oh my gosh. You want to come to the party? Like, that isn't happening. There's like homosexuals or queer people might come together, might make a club and might help each other, but it isn't like the new hot, like, it's not like Gangnam Style. Everybody's doing the sucking cock, you know, everybody blow the dick. Like, that's not like blowing up with the youth. It is true that young people are more queer than everyone else, but that's because they're the first generation to really be raised in an environment that's not as homophobic as their predecessors, or a lot less homophobic than their predecessors. And that's not even talking about the rural communities where there's still a lot of homophobia. There's still homophobia in cities as well, but there's still a lot of families who are homophobic. And his solution to this is just basically like, you cannot be openly gay in schools. You cannot promote that. You cannot say you're gay, whatever that means. So we're just discriminating against them. We're just saying you can't be openly gay. Like, this is a don't say gay situation on the people. You can't be openly gay. You can be openly straight. You can go date girls and stuff like that, but don't you dare date any of your classmates if you're a guy and they're another guy. That's not allowed. Like, this is going to cause a lot of, dude, number one, these students are not going to obey that rule. Good luck with that. Okay? Good luck with that. All you're going to do is make it so these kids are not going to get proper sex education. They're not going to learn about sexual diseases, and they're just going to be doing everything behind your back. That's all you're going to do. All you're going to do is push this stuff underground and make them feel less accepted and increase their suicide rates. Congratulations.
So we can easily make America less gay if we just go about it the Christian way.
Okay. Yeah, I understand where you're coming with this. So
Christian way is to ban it. Got you.
So I wrote down what you said here, and I'll try to hit on each one just briefly so we can keep the dialogue going. But going back to Christian values, back when America was more Christian, gay people still existed. There were still gay people all over the place. They were just forced into the closet. They usually lived much shittier lives and overall just had a worse off well-being because they were discriminated against and forced into the closet. So even if we were to, say, go back to Christian values, that wouldn't actually get rid of gay people. People would still be gay. They would just live their lives worse off. And not to mention, I think it's really important I mentioned that gay people do tend to adopt at higher rates as compared to heterosexual people, which is to be expected since they can't have kids themselves. And this is a benefit for all of society. They're more likely to, yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, they're even more likely to adopt disabled kids or what they're considered hard to place children who are not finding homes because they're older or because they have disabilities. Gay people are more likely to take those people in. That's actually like a Christian value right there, is caring for the sick and caring for the weak, even if it requires you sacrifice your own goals in life. I think that's pretty powerful. You bring up the environmental side of LGBT stuff, and again, I don't think it's any environmental factor making people.
Can I say, this type of the style of debate, I don't know if it was just I was completely delusional about Hunter or like something's changed here, but like he's doing very well right now. I mean, it's just started. We're just getting into it, but HunterAvallon's doing very well right now, right off the bat. He's saying basically everything I would want him to.
Gay. However, you're probably right that because the environment now is more accepting of gay people, you're going to see more people being comfortable coming out as gay. Thus, the rates of gay people are going to go up. Just like when interracial marriage was legalized, you saw the rates of interracial marriage go up. It wasn't the environment making people want to do interracial marriage. You say stop showing it on TV. They have a law like this in China. They specifically say you cannot show feminine men or gay stuff on TV. People are still gay in China. So I don't know how that would work. You say no pushing it in schools. Well, the fact that gay people are real is a reality. That's the truth of reality. And so to me, saying you shouldn't teach people this, that this thing exists in school, is the equivalent of saying, don't tell kids that the world is flat. And we'll kind of leave it right there. And then I want to address the abnormal thing next, but.
Okay.
I think he messed up the ending. I think what he meant to say is don't tell kids the world is round unless he believes reality is that the earth is flat. I think he messed up.
You sort of did a false equivalency there. You said I said get rid of gay people. Nope. I said make it less gay. And since in your conversation you already admitted that less people identified as gay.
Wait, hold on. No. I need to stop you right there. Less people came out as being gay when it was heavily discouraged and they were heavily discriminated against. That doesn't mean people weren't gay.
Hunter,
they were living worse lives.
Hunter, it is your show, which I cool, but you know I have my mic.
By the way, can I just say quickly, the fact that HunterAvallone, and his name is Hunter, and he's a liberal, he's a very rare breed now, right? He's a very rare breed. Being Hunter and being like not right wing is very difficult.
I have my microphone muted as you was talking. So if you could give me the same respect, that'd be awesome. If not, it's your show. It's whatever. I'll work through it and dug it out. But I said make America less gay. Now you're trying to say that the same amount of people were gay, which isn't true. And there's one study that a lot of people like you go to, and that study is so flawed that it's almost hilarious. First off, if you look at the study, the amount of people that were bisexual in the study already should give you a red flag. And I don't know if you're referencing the same study, but I'm
not.
But I mean, just there was less gay people back then. Talk to your grandpa; he'll tell you the same thing. If you don't want to look at the study.
I'm not trying to cut you off, and I want to respect your ability to respond to what I've said, but this is just like delusional right here. This is like delusional. Saying because more people were hiding the fact that they were gay, so of course it seemed like there were less gay people. Gay people have existed since the beginning of time. There's gay activity even in
Yo, do you think? Remember when Trump said just don't test people for COVID and the COVID rate will stay low? It reminds me of
animals. Like this is something that's been occurring for a long ass time. I could ask my grandfather and he would say less people were gay because
of course
they didn't know as many people were gay at the time. That's not a free society though. And America's all about freedom. I want to see people being able to live freely. And if they're gay, why should they be forced into the closet just because it might make you or other people uncomfortable?
Yeah, you say delusional, but no matter what numbers we look up to, less people identified as gay back then by a long shot.
Of course.
And there's multiple studies saying that's because of environmental factors. And then once again, you can argue about that. And once again, you can argue about that all day, but
saying that environmental factors makes it so more people identify as gay. Like, yes, environmental factors make it so in Chechnya, less people identify as gay. Because if you're gay, you might end up in a place where you'll be tortured, beat with metal poles, and then electrocuted, right? So if somebody asks you, what do you identify as? I'm the straightest man on earth. And immediately when the door closes, you're going to get rammed in the butt, okay? Putting it bluntly. Those environmental factors affected the percentage of reported homosexuals. The question is, this is the disagreement. Bryson Gray believes that the acceptance of homosexuality in public has created more homosexuals, where HunterAvallone is saying that the making homosexuality accepted has made it so more people can discover that part of themselves and are more able to accept themselves and come out of the closet. And honestly, like, either way, I don't care personally. I think it's fine either way, if whether environmental factors are creating more or they're not. But there's like no way you can know exactly what environmental factors creates a homosexual. Like how, like what is it? Is what combination of colors and letters and words is gonna like increase the odds of making a kid gay? Do you tilt your, like during pregnancy, does the woman, like if they tilt themselves this way, is there like a 5% chance during childbirth that they're gay? If they like eat a lot of bananas, does that increase it by 2%? Like this is something that we don't know. What creates homosexuals? We have some evidence for, most of the evidence being biological, even though there is some environmental. There's probably a combination of factors, but we don't even know the environmental factors that makes it so people are gay. We don't, because in my opinion, I think what's most likely is that people are gay and the environment has made it so they're more willing to come out or discover that part of themselves. Definitely, since the largest portion of LGBTQ plus community that's increased isn't homosexuality, isn't trans people, it's actually bisexuals, people who sat back, discovered themselves more, and was like, oh damn, I like hot beefy men, right? That seems to be the largest percentage that has grown. So for me, like are they going out and like getting plowed for no reason? Like, do they just want to for like popularity's sake? Like, that seems silly. Like, I find it hard to believe that somebody's gonna fake being gay for 50 to 60 years until they die just for like popularity's sake. That seems silly. But I will say that we do have a record of people faking to be straight for popularity's sake. That is on record. Back to literally like Frederick the Great of Prussia and many, many other celebrities and people.
I mean, it's just a simple truth. If you disagree with it, that's fine. I don't really care.
I'm agreeing with you.
Right there.
I'm agreeing with you.
We can agree.
Bryson, Bryson, I'm agreeing with you. Yes.
Okay. No,
environmentally, if gay people were discriminated against, you would see less people saying they were gay. Now, environmentally, it's more accepted. So more people who are gay are going to say that they're gay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree with you, but it's not the environment making people gay or making people straight.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to disagree. We can get deeper to that disagreement, but I want to hit some of your other points first. You said gay people adopt at higher rates. Now, this is going to offend you, and it's fine. I think that should be illegal off the rip. I don't.
Okay, we're gonna go back and I'm gonna hear what he had to say, but I'm sorry, I was looking at my other tab. MJF is fighting tonight. Oh my God, look at this.
Footing at the lariat. Oh my God, how about that? MJF.
Oh.
Feet answers with a thrust kick, hits the ropes. Big elbow strike. Rolling elbow connects from MJF. Oh, lariat.
Man, I wish I was watching wrestling. Back to this.
We can get deeper to that.
By the way, this is wrestling, isn't it?
Disagreement, but I want to hit some of your other points first. You said gay people adopt at higher rates. Now, this is going to offend you, and it's fine. I think that should be illegal off the rip. I don't care if they adopt at higher rates. They shouldn't be able to adopt, period. That should be illegal. And that's just simple. So it's not.
I mean, he believes in splitting up families, right? And my view, God, okay, I don't know if this is an extremist view, but if you try to take away a child from their parents because they're gay, like, I don't know, like, if Bryson Gray is a parent or not, but having discussed like the issue of adoption and like people taking away your children to like some parents before, because I had to talk about this issue when it came to like certain homeschooling and cults and stuff like that. Parents are obviously very protective of their children, and there is nothing more terrifying you could tell a parent than I'm going to take your child away if you give me power, which is what you're telling gay people, right? And so if that is what's put forward, like, don't expect gay people to take that lying down. It's not going to happen. We're not going to ban gay adoption in the United States. It's never going to happen. The amount of like social change and reactionary movement that would need to be created to not only roll back gay marriage, but then roll back gay adoption as being legal all across the country is immense, and the odds of that happening are very low, thankfully. But like, don't expect people to take that type of stuff lying down to try to get the government in between children and their families. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, hey, remember, they believe so much in school choice, and you need to keep the parents out of you need to keep the government out of how people raise their children. You cannot have the government raise your kids and tell them what is good and what is not good in school. They should concentrate on mathematics. But also, I want the government to take your children away if you're homosexual. Like, this is insane.
The benefit to society at all.
It should be illegal for gay people to adopt. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to write this down.
Okay, yeah, I say gay people shouldn't adopt. It should be illegal. Write that down.
Okay,
very clear. Secondly, homosexuality, statistically speaking, is inherently a net negative to society. You can write that down. Also,
is inherently a net negative? What does that mean? That doesn't. How do you? Okay, whatever. Well, he doesn't even expand on that. It's just inherently a net negative for society. Okay.
How is it a net negative, though?
Huh?
How is it a negative?
Oh, because there's nothing positive that can come from homosexuality. Only negativity can come. So, my perfect.
Dude, I don't know if this guy's got a girlfriend or a significant other, but the positive thing that could come out of somebody being gay is that they get to love somebody that loves them back. Right? That's like the idea. Like, that's the positive. Like, what's the main positive of being straight? Oh, you get to love somebody, probably. That's number one, right? Like, yeah, you get to feel the feelings of love and emotion and care for another human being. Dude, if like, I'm sorry, like, this shit is silly. I'm sick of people, the same people who are like, what, gun control? Oh my god, that's ridiculous. Yes, banning guns would probably bring down the amount of gun deaths. I mean, technically that's true, but personal freedom is more important than the government being your nanny. Obviously. What, mandatory COVID vaccines? Like, maybe it would increase the death toll from over the, already we have 1 million dead. Maybe it would increase the death toll not to do it. But at the end of the day, it is not the job of the nanny state to look after you. That is not their job. Oh my goodness. Mandatory mask wearing, same thing. It is not the job of the state to look after you at all. But the state should tell you your state mandated sexuality. You're not allowed to be a gay, or you're not allowed to adopt and have a family and be normal and be accepted. So you need to be an outcast, and the government needs to intervene from these loving families and needs to split them apart. Why? Well, because percentages on, you know, the negatives on being a homosexual. Oh, I thought we didn't care about the nanny state. I thought we leave people to live their lives freely. But all of a sudden, when it comes to homosexuality, all of a sudden the freedom advocates become fucking theocrats. Big surprise.
Perfect example, in the United States, we're still below the replacement rate. And if we just had gay people, obviously that would be non-existent. So gay people can't further humanity. So inherently,
I'm sorry, gay people can't further humanity. Gotcha.
That negative. Okay. But outside of that,
number one, gay people can produce children. I don't know if this guy lives in the fucking Stone Age, but artificial insemination is an option. Obviously, they're gonna have lower rates of naturally producing children because not many people are going to choose artificial insemination. But if we were to make it cheaper, if we were to make it more affordable, and we were to continue to develop these scientific advancements, it'd be a lot easier. But I have a weird feeling that he's not a huge fan of artificial insemination to begin with, right? Putting that aside, there is still a societal duty that is done when you adopt children who, if they age out of the adoption system, have like a 40 to 45% chance of becoming homeless within like a first like 5 years, and have a very high rate of taking drugs and drug abuse. And not to mention all of the other contributions gays give society. Just through like just like being scientists and being doctors and all this else. Like he's like painting gays as basically like these lazy, like uncontributing fiends who are just trying to like take children and bring their lives down and hurt them. And like, this is, I don't know, this is getting like clownish. We're only like what, 13 minutes in? God, man.
When you look specifically at gay men, the majority of people with HIV and AIDS are gay. And a lot of them are black also, but if they're black.
Yo, do you think, hey, you know what? We need to stop interracial marriage and black people from being born in the United States. Why, Dylan? That's ridiculous. Well, they have a higher rate of sickle cell. Therefore, we need to ban interracial marriage because what we're doing is, this is ridiculous. Come on. Under any other circumstances, we wouldn't buy this bullshit. And I know he wouldn't buy that bullshit either if I was to say, we need to stop more black people being created because of the sickle cell rates. And what about their inability to drink milk at the same level? Like, this is silly. Get out of here.
Like, they're probably gay, obviously. And secondly, gay people are more likely to be depressed by a minimum like 25%. And that's just with gay people and lesbian people. You get the transgender people, it's a little more.
I wonder what's causing gay people to be so sad when people are talking about, yes, I want to split up your family. What of it? I wonder what it could be. I have no idea. I wonder why queer people might have higher rates of depression or instability in the home.
A little worse than that. Secondly, literally anal sex alone will make you 30% more likely to get HIV and other disgusting diseases that comes because obviously anal sex is not how you're supposed to have sex, which is why you tear the nerves and things of that nature. So a lot of health issues could come from that, and over 90% of gay men perform that way. And then you're gonna say, oh, straight people do it too. It's wrong when straight people do it too. It's just straight people don't do it at as high of a rate as gay people when it comes to the amount of people doing it. Secondly, you said China pushed to not have feminine men. The thing you forgot to mention is that is a fairly recent thing they started doing because they started seeing too many feminine men in China, which is why they started pushing that. And that pretty much, I think, hit on the head of all of your points.
Okay, sure. So I'm just looking up the China rate of gay people as well. All right, well, I'll dig into that in a little bit, but that's obviously not the main thing we're focusing on, so I can get back to that. So it should be illegal for gay people to adopt. I think that, okay, so...
Dude, I love it when the small government until it's the minority.
I'm going to accept that you're probably pro-America, like you support the Constitution and whatnot. Are you like pro-American principles, or do you kind of disagree with some of the principles in the Constitution and whatnot?
Oh, no, I like the Constitution, but I like the context surrounding it also. The context surrounding this entire country of its existence.
Okay, so outlawing gay people's ability to adopt simply on the basis of them being gay would be a violation of their 14th Amendment rights. So there is an equality clause in the Constitution that basically says that if you're going to treat one group of people a certain way, you need to do the best within your power to treat other groups of people that same way, so long as they're comparable enough. So because you have straight couples who adopt, you also have gay couples who want to adopt. You can't just say, no, because you're gay, you can't adopt. So when you say you want to illegal or outlaw gay adoption, not only are you talking about violating the Constitution and you are speaking against American principles, even more so, look at the benefits from gay people adopting. Do you know that kids who are adopted by gay people fare just as well as kids raised by straight parents? Did you know that?
Oh, you actually were asking me a question?
Yeah, I'm asking, did you know that kids who are adopted by gay parents do just as well, if not better in some circumstances, compared to kids raised by straight parents?
Not morally, no.
Dog. Not morally. Not morally. What does that even mean? Like, oh, well, we okay, I'm just gonna let him expand on that. What a weird response. Don't they do that? Aren't they performing at the same roles? Not morally. What does that mean?
So what do you mean not morally?
Yeah, like I said before, if you look up when gay people adopt those kids, there's multiple studies, and I mean we can question the validity of these studies. I wish I was at my house so I could pull these studies up, because at this point it's just me talking and you can say I made them up, so that's cool.
No,
so,
I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Okay, well, there's multiple studies so that kids raised by LGBT people, and by the way, let me make this clear: it's not just gay people. I don't think people that are unmarried should be able to adopt and things of that nature also.
God, man, in his world, there's just gonna be so many fucking orphans. His world is like the saddest Orphan Annie ass universe, with just cops everywhere, just like rounding up these kids. It's like, I'm sorry, I know Jim and Jeffrey with their big ass mansion and pool in private school are ready to adopt you, but did you know they kiss? Oh my God, nah, sorry, very much sorry. Yeah, no, you're just gonna have to age out of the system. Sucks for you.
So
dude, does he? You know what? Maybe he runs like maybe this guy's like a dealer. Maybe he's like he's dealing to the orphans, and he has a business interest in making sure that these kids have like the highest rate of drug addiction. I just can't understand. Like, what's the motivation if you're thinking about the kids? If the kids is like your main issue here, and you're concentrating on the kids, right? And that's your main issue. No matter what data you pull out, nothing you could produce would show that aging out of the adoption system is better than being adopted by a gay couple. That's assuming whatever data is about to put forward is not twisted and not wrong or being misrepresented in any way.
Oh, like these kids grow up literally being more depressed, also more likely to be on pills, even though that's white people.
This is a lie. No. I thought you were going to say they're more likely to be gay. There was one that said that kids raised by lesbian parents might have a higher likelihood of.
That was going to be. That's gonna be the last thing I said, but the depression rate is also true. That's not a lie, by the way.
No. The depression thing you're talking about was a 2012 study that was discredited and also taken.
Who?
Excuse me?
Discredited by who?
It was discredited by the original author of the study and by the journal that published the study. So I don't know why you would bring that up. They were taking parents who
don't know why his ass is smiling right now.
Were straight, had children, and then one of those parents came out as gay and left the family. Obviously, having a broken, split-up family is going to be far worse for a child. Yes, of course. This does not prove that gay people raising kids is bad. We have decades upon decades of peer-reviewed literature, and it all comes to the same conclusion, which is that gay people raising kids in a stable socioeconomic situation, those kids fare just as well, if not better, than kids raised by straight parents. And so the problem I have here is that you have this isn't a hypothetical. It's a very real part of the world right now, that there are over 100,000 kids who need to be adopted, who need families. Kids who are older and disabled need families. Being raised in the foster care system is incredibly detrimental. You want to talk about a higher likelihood of doing drugs or suicide or depression? Look at kids raised in the foster care system. You're saying kids should be deprived of having a family.
Yes. Oh my God, Hunter. Okay. I take everything I've ever said about HunterAvallone back. Okay. I take everything back.
That loves them because some moral problem that you're, I guess, imagining. There's no evidence that they do worse morally. There's only evidence that they benefit from being raised by gay parents. So why are you really against this?
Can I respond now?
Yeah.
Okay. The first one, obviously, you're going to be offended by, but that's fine. I believe the Constitution was only written for moral religious people. And since I believe that homosexuals are inherently immoral, everybody in the LGBT are inherently immoral, then I don't believe the Constitution includes their rights anyway.
What a ridiculous thing. No legal scholar would ever hold this up. What do you mean? This would mean that every single person outside of Christians do not have First Amendment rights, do not have rights to equal protection under the law. Like, cops can just come up to them, beat the shit out of them, and there's nothing they can do because they're gay, they're immoral. The law doesn't matter to them. You can treat them however you want. What is this advocation for a lawless society where the Christians are like the master race, the top, the Aryans of morality, that they could treat everybody else? Nobody else gets protection under the law. Nobody else gets constitutional protections. This is silly. Could you imagine being like, I know you just said being gay is okay, but that's illegal because you don't get First Amendment rights. You're going to prison. What? This is silly, man. It sounds like he hasn't thought any of this through, and he's just kind of like shooting on the fly here because he didn't expect this.
Secondly, you say gay people raising kids isn't bad. Yeah, once again, I simply disagree, and also.
So, okay, he's like, yeah, well, okay, you told me that my study now, was retracted and the original authors were like, oh, actually, there's a problem here and all that. Well, I simply just, no.
To that point,
Dude, how is this guy fucking popular, man? How is it that so many fucking knuckle-dragging, brain-dead morons been able to get so much attention? Oh, wait, okay, publicity stunts. Okay, well, I don't know how that was that difficult for me to figure that out.
Respect people that are more likely to be depressed already. That stuff will be learned on that. The kids will learn that also. So the fact that gay people are 25% more likely to be depressed, and I think transgender people are like 40% more likely to be depressed than normal people. Then I believe if they adopt kids, and that will be passed down to the kids. And once again, that's not to say all gay people are depressed or all trans people are depressed. Mm-hmm. I'm just talking about pure statistically speaking, they are more depressed than normal human beings. You said kids are waiting to be adopted, but I'm sure you know this, so I don't even have to like bring this up as like a point to like as a gotcha moment. But I'm sure you know that for every kid wanting to be adopted, there are like I think 40 families waiting to adopt them.
Yeah, but we're talking about older kids and kids who are disabled. That's why they're considered hard to place, because straight couples do not usually want to adopt children like that, as opposed to gay people who are more willing.
Okay, so I'm glad we're being more specific now, because it is true that the older a kid get in the system, that the less likely a family would want to adopt them. Because of the issues that you understand come with that also. So it's not like a thing like all these families are bad families. No. Kids that grow up in the foster care system or wait to get adopted too long, they have more behavior issues, and that's just a statistical truth. Also, I'm glad that we both are aware of these statistics, but obviously we interpret them a little bit differently, which is fine by me. But I think I hit on all three of your main points, so you can respond.
Okay, sure. So I would ask, for the sake of consistency, that you please stop pretending to be pro-America at all, because you are like completely anti-America. Everything that America stands on, you are against. You're like an authoritarian who's against America right here. When you say,
okay, now I understand, like what Hunter's saying when he's like, what Hunter's saying is true when it comes to the idea that constitutional protections doesn't apply to gay people because gays are immoral, therefore they don't get protections like everybody else does. Like, that is an inherently authoritarian, anti-American viewpoint, because even the founding fathers I don't think even the founding fathers agree with that. Like, at first, like, they didn't write it like, so if you're cool and based in Christian, then you get First Amendment rights. Everybody else, especially the gays, they don't. They didn't write that in the Constitution. If he wants to make it an authoritarian constitution that discriminates against all non-Christians, he can go create that, but that's not the Constitution we currently have. So it is anti-American. But it is impossible to say that somebody's anti-American without it coming off as preachy. So I'm going to give it like a pass here, but he's right. Like, if you're saying that gays do not get 14th Amendment protections because they're gay, that is like, that's pretty authoritarian and pretty theocratic. Anti-freedom, generally.
The Constitution is only for moral people. This is a joke. America was founded as a secular nation. Specifically, America was specifically founded as a secular nation because they didn't like the Church of England's involvement prior. That's why, sure, they may have been inspired by their own religious beliefs, but this is why God is not even mentioned in the Constitution and why they take seriously the separation of church and state. This is why the state cannot uphold one religion. So for you to say it only applies to moral people, by that logic, does that mean if there's somebody who does drugs, and we're going to say that's immoral, that they have now lost their freedom of speech? Is that like what you would you go that route?
So just to be clear, what I said is not a personal opinion. It's something one of the founding fathers, John Adams, said.
What did John Adams say?
He said that the Constitution was written only for moral and religious people. It was in his letter to the Massachusetts militia.
So, okay, so he may have had his own personal opinions, and that's fine, but that's not what's spelled out in the actual law or in the actual Constitution.
Yeah, his personal opinion doesn't really matter that much. It's true. Not to mention, like, imagine how much legal precedent would be undone if we just said, oh, we didn't read the John Adams letter. I guess all the non-Christians don't get the First Amendment. What fucking ridiculous nonsense. We're gonna like say that 40% of the country just loses their First Amendment rights. That's the creation of like a theocratic state, not what has made America so successful.
It's a separation of church and state. So sure, I'm sure some of the people that originally wrote the Constitution had their own backwards ideas. That's not really very surprising. However, that is not what's spelled out in the actual Constitution. So for you to say that it's only for moral people, that is against the Constitution. And so I want you to answer me. If somebody does drugs, does that mean that they are not allowed or that they've lost their freedom of speech?
He's not going to answer the question.
If somebody is like actively a drug addict, then yeah. I mean, just naturally speaking, a lot of times they can't even control themselves, and a lot of them end up homeless, and a lot of them end up needing help.
I'm not asking about that.
No way. Is he actually going to say if you do drugs, you shouldn't be allowed the First Amendment? Is he actually going to say that?
I'm asking if somebody is shooting up heroin, do they lose?
If that's the case, Trump shouldn't have been able to run to president. I'm sorry. He shouldn't have been able to run for president. If you think that guy wasn't snorting lines of coke, you're insane.
Lose their right to freedom of speech.
Hey, Hunter, you're so aggressive. Relax,
I'm being aggressive when I am confronted by just stupidity. So I'm trying to get you to answer the question, and you're pivoting all over the place.
It seems to be stupidity, but the people that wrote the Constitution said the same thing, and you didn't know that. So.
One person who wrote the Constitution, there was multiple people who wrote the Constitution, said it in a letter to a militia. That's not really, is that how we're gonna like interpret this now? Like, oh, I found out that this guy who wrote the Constitution individually sent this guy a letter saying that, you know, only moral and religious people the Constitution was written for. Therefore, we need to completely undo hundreds of years of legal precedent to make it so that we base our nation on a theocratic nature. Make it so only the Christians have the First Amendment, only the Christians have the Second Amendment. So we disarm everybody who's not Christian. We take away the freedom of expression. If they say something that offends the religious state, they get thrown into prison. And this comes from the free speech guy. Like, he's not answering the question directly because he can't answer the question directly. It's fucking silly, man.
So that's kind of.
How is this guy this popular?
No, I did know that, but I'm not really that concerned by the personal opinions of one of the of the Constitution as opposed to what's spelled out in the law. So I would like you to answer my question, please. I've asked you now 3 times. If somebody is...
By the way, let's read this message from John Adams. As the government of the United States of America is not, in any sense, founded on the Christian religion, as it has in itself no character of enmity against the laws, religion, or tranquility of Muslims, and as the said states never entered into any war or act of hostility against any Mohammedan, I don't know what that means, nation, I think it means Muslim nation, it is declared by the parties that no pretext arising from religious opinions shall ever produce an interruption of the harmony existing between the two countries.
Shooting up heroin, does that now give the government a right to restrict their freedom of speech?
So if somebody's an active drug addict, it's argued like, are they immoral or are they struggling with something? Like, perfect example. If somebody is
That's not his fucking question. Shut up, dog.
gay and they're proud of them.
Dude, it is immoral if you take heroin and then abandon your family for taking heroin. I believe that is immoral, right? It is immoral for you to abandon your family because you're doing so many drugs. That doesn't mean that you lose the right to a jury full of your peers or the First Amendment. There is no legal scholar in the world that would believe this is true. Definitely anyone that has any familiarity with the American legal system.
Being gay, are they struggling with it? If somebody's struggling with it, then I believe that is a different case. But if somebody has pride in being immoral, like this is they're choosing, like they're wanting, they seek out to be immoral, or they're not religious. So I would say atheists also. Yeah, the Constitution is not written for those people. So
atheists don't get their First Amendment rights?
Okay, so if somebody is proud to be a heroin addict, they love...
No, move off of that. Say atheist. That's much easier. Say if somebody is proud to be an atheist, they don't have the First Amendment. Just push them on that. Dude, I'm sorry, man. Man, cut a free speech guy and a fascist bleeds.
And heroin. They love shooting it up. They have now lost their rights to freedom of speech.
Well, they do. If they get caught with heroin, what will happen?
Wait, it's
Going to prison doesn't eliminate your whatever. Going to prison for taking heroin is not the same as removing somebody's First Amendment rights.
American right that they're put before a trial and then they get sentenced based on there. And they would probably go to jail if they're breaking the law.
What happens when you go to jail? You lose. What do you lose?
Hold on.
You lose your constitutional rights.
No, you're weaseling right now, very, very badly.
Oh no, I'm not.
You don't lose your constitutional rights going to prison. Sure, you won't have as big of a platform to speak. However, if we're talking about somebody who's out in public...
Also, if that's true, what about a jury of your peers? Is that removed?
Or out in society, and it's known that they are a drug addict, you're saying that now gives the government a right to restrict their freedom of speech. They could, let's say they're doing heroin, okay? And then they go out and they say, you know what? I'm not really a big fan of President Joe Biden. Well, why can't President Joe Biden now get this person arrested? Because according to you, he no longer has constitutional rights to free speech or to criticize the government or freedom of expression because he's immoral.
So just to be clear, the only reason this person is allowed free speech because he just simply hasn't been caught. Again, like I said before, I wasn't weaseling. I've had these conversations before. I've heard the same arguments before, and I'm giving the same responses I've given.
You have freedom of speech if you're in prison.
Dude, Hunter needs to move off of this and push the atheist line more. So you're saying if somebody's proud to be an atheist, they should not have the First Amendment rights. Then you know what that sounds like? That sounds like he's scared that atheism is growing in the United States, being generally non-religious is growing in the United States, and on a fair debate playing field, it seems that Christianity in America is slightly decreasing year after year, and so the only way to win is to ban the opposition. That's what it sounds like to me.
Still, if you're in a federal prison, yeah, you're not answering my question, dude. Do you think Joe Biden could lock somebody up for saying he's a shit president if that person is also a drug addict?
So if you let me finish. So I have the same conversations all the time, the same arguments all the time. Okay. So if somebody gets caught with heroin, smoking it, or selling it, that person would then lose their constitutional rights if they're called by the police, because in prison you do not have free speech because you cannot even say what you want to say and publicize it anybody. So that's just not true. You literally lose your constitutional rights in prison. That's the whole point of being in prison.
Getting imprisoned, though, the process by which you would be put in prison is still is an American right. The way that it's perceived innocent until proven guilty. So let's back off then the drug thing if you're going to keep going back to the weasel answer there. Maybe somebody loves having an affair, okay? They love having an affair. They're cheating on their wife. That's not illegal, so they can't go to jail for it, but they are being immoral. If this person goes out and says, Joe Biden fucking sucks, should Joe Biden have the right to then lock that person up for their speech because they no longer have their right to freedom of speech for living immoral?
Yeah. So adultery is definitely illegal in 21 states and should be illegal in all 50 states. So
why is that your business? Why is it your business to regulate people's personal? Oh my God, really? We're gonna arrest people for adultery? We don't have enough people in prison. We need to fucking arrest people for laying pipe on consenting adults? Really?
That person is immoral.
You're such a weasel. Holy shit, you're weaseling so bad right now. Why don't you just answer the question, dude?
Bro, you said a wrong statement. I have to correct you first.
In my state of Maryland, it is not illegal to practice adultery, okay? And then, dude, he really, this is all just trying to avoid answering the question. This is all it is, man.
You don't like correction?
Okay, let's assume then that it's in the state where it's not illegal, okay? I'm trying to get you to actually answer the real question and you keep pivoting.
No, I am answering the question. I don't think you're listening. So let me help you. First off, you were wrong, and you should be still corrected. And my point was adultery should be illegal in all 50 states.
I can't believe if there's any state that actually has adultery illegal, that's actually ridiculous and backwards to a way like I can't even understand.
And
you can say something's wrong without having to say it's the government's job to manage it. And I do not think it's the government's job to manage your marriage.
Like biblical law. So yeah, their rights will be taken away too.
Okay, so if they're in a state where it's legal still for them to have an affair, and then they go out and say Joe Biden sucks, you think it's acceptable for Joe Biden to arrest that person because they no longer have freedom of speech because they're living immorally?
What I'm saying is the law should be changed, so it should be illegal.
You said it's for only for, you said the
Dude, he is so...
Constitution only applies to immoral people. I'm giving you an answer of somebody who's living immorally, but not illegally because they're in a state where it's still legal.
You know how wild it is to say that if you commit adultery, you should have your First Amendment rights taken away? This is actually insane. I can't believe anybody would actually say this shit in public.
Wait.
I feel like this doesn't seem like the United States. It sounds like fucking Saudi Arabia.
Well, to lock this person up because according to you, they should not have their constitutional rights because they're immoral.
So I don't know if you understand the history of laws in this country. Adultery was illegal in all 50 states.
Also, somebody just brought this up in chat. Adultery can be illegal, but like never charged. There's a lot of laws like that.
It's just like homosexuality and sodomy was illegal in all 50 states.
Okay.
Before the 60s. So I think what I'm saying is we need to go back to, I would rather go back to these like moral laws we had in place.
He wants to just ban homosexuality. So it isn't just make America like... See, that's what we should have gotten to at the start. Make America straight again means just banning the gays. There it is.
That was based on scripture.
There it is. Ban the gays.
America, which is so interesting when like secular people say that. Like literally all of y'all would have been disgusting to every single founding fathers. You know the thing.
Bryson Gray would have been disgusting to a lot of the founding fathers. They would have been like, got another one, and then like they caught him with a net and like brought him back home. Like, what do you mean?
People say all the founding fathers were, they all were these. No, that's cap. They all got baptized. They all was Christian. They all believed in Jesus. This is all based on their own writings themselves.
So you want like a biblical Sharia. So you're basically just a Sharia law Muslim, but Christian version.
You mean like a theocracy? You asking if I support a theocracy?
Pretty much, yeah.
Thanks for asking. Yes, theocracy.
Okay, so Christian Sharia. Thank you. I would like to stop moving all over the place, please, and instead back up to you answering the question that you still haven't answered.
Question. You just don't like my. I already answered.
No. You said well.
One second. I need to add something. I'm gonna let this play. Let me just get an image just for like ideological enhancement. Okay.
Laws should change back to the 60s. That's not what you said before.
Yes,
you said that the Constitution doesn't apply to people unless they are immoral people. Should that person lose their right to freedom of speech if they are living immorally?
No, I'm confused. Why did I say the Constitution is written only for more religious people?
Because you were trying to somehow exclude gay people from all of this.
No. Comprehension. No, sir. The reason I said that is because that was what the Founding Fathers said, and I agree with the Founding Fathers because the most quoted book by the Founding Fathers was the Bible. The Constitution is based on all of their beliefs in God. So what I'm saying is we should go back to when they wrote the Constitution. Like, you can talk about the Constitution, I'm anti-America. When the Constitution was written, bro, including the Bill of Rights, this stuff was illegal.
It doesn't matter. The Constitution has changed. That's why it was written as a breathing, living document. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah,
because it can change and accommodate for new people and their rights as well. And plus, hold on, the fact that you would say most liberals would be disgusting to the Founding Fathers. I'm sorry, I think the Founding Fathers would probably be fucking disgusting towards you, my dude. They would probably be trying to lock you up. Like, give me a fucking break. So I want to go back because every time you keep on pivoting from this. If somebody is having an affair, they're in a state where it's legal.
Dude, if I'm being for real, and I don't know how he doesn't know this, but there are a significant portion of the Founding Fathers who would probably, the only words they would want to hear out of his mouth is literally like songs in the field. Like, these are like many of them are deeply racist people. Actually, I would say the majority of them are deeply racist people. And like, there's a decent portion of them who also like endorse slavery. And a lot of them would, the idea of Bryson Gray holding office as a black man is like insane to them. So let's not like just judge like human history today by the standards of what a bunch of people 300 to 400 years ago thought were like the standards that people should like hold themselves to. Because obviously that changes with times. Like if you were to ask them about holding the founding fathers to the standards of 400 years before that, they'd be like, no, those people were wrong on all of these things. Our society has evolved and changed, and we're a lot better now for it when it comes to freedom and ownership of property and not being ruled by kings. Like society changes, times change. I guess Bryson just can't accept that.
Does Joe Biden have the right to lock that person in prison for slandering the president? Because according to you, they are not moral, so they should not have their constitutional rights. Just give me a yes or no answer already. Stop weaseling.
I mean, I've already answered, but you don't like listening. I don't understand you at all. But since the laws are incorrect in that state, then obviously by law that can't happen. So per how they trying to interpret the Constitution, because when the Supreme Court got the right to interpret the Constitution how they wanted to, that was the downfall of this country, the beginning of the downfall of this society. But outside of that, if something like adultery is not illegal in your state, which is pitiful and wasn't like that when the Constitution was written, then obviously Joe Biden should not be able to throw this person in jail because the people got the wrong laws. So what I'm saying
again, one who commits adultery has proven that they are incapable of good moral judgment. I would entrust them to have the best intentions in steering where the country goes. Really? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Donald Trump should have been able to run for president? Like, at all? Like, do you think he should be allowed to? Because that dude, I don't care what you think, that guy cheated. That guy cheated a lot. I mean, a whole lot. Like that like, if there's anybody who committed the sin of adultery, it is Donald J. Trump.
Again, like I said,
oh, not to mention, many of the founding fathers were hound dogs who went around and cheated on their wives.
3 times. I don't know if you don't like it. I don't know if you don't know his history. I don't understand what you're trying to say.
There it is, right there from chat. 100 bits. Do you think this guy realizes how many of the founding fathers were pussy hounds? Benjamin Franklin, of course, but there were others as well.
But the law should be fixed, and then they would be in jail, and all of these. This would be a beautiful life.
Okay, got it. So it is only for a moral people then if that morality is first reflected by the laws. So that's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, that's what it should be. I like theocracies. And just to be clear, you said something so incorrect earlier. First off, once again we say it's anti-America. That's just you're calling the founding fathers alone anti-American, which is weird because they try to like.
The founding fathers did not want to outlaw adultery because many of them were adulterous pussy hounds. Like whatever.
Use the Constitution to support your argument. It's a very weird thing. But when you say America,
if he can use a single letter from one founding father to justify denying everybody who isn't a moral, upstanding Christian to his standards of their First Amendment, Second Amendment, and all of their rights, then the very least he can do is acknowledge the fact that the founding fathers were also massive pussy hounds and adulterous as hell, should they have been banned from being a founding father or writing the Constitution in the first place.
Found as a secular nation.
It's very funny to use like the document written by adulterers to justify taking away the First Amendment rights of adulterers. It's just very interesting.
Once again, this is just historically inaccurate. People get confused about what the American Revolution was. Yes, it was about taxes, but it also was in part a religious war. He is right. They wanted to get from under the Church of England, but if you look at the first 13 colonies, most of them had established state churches. Matter of fact, if you continue going through history, even after the Bill of Rights, when they stopped established state churches, if you were of specific religions, you could still be kicked out of states. Prime example,
do you think that's a good thing?
Joseph Smith and the Mormons.
Again, like, okay, that's not a good thing, number one. And number two, the same person he was quoting as a justification to, like, you know, make it so gays don't have their First Amendment or Second Amendment or any of their rights because he wants to outlaw homosexuality, right? That same person was perfectly fine with Muslims coming to the United States. Like, I mean, like, again, the people he's quoting don't even agree with him. It's so not that necessarily all these people even need to agree with this for it to be true or not.
You don't support the Constitution. So you think if people are immoral, that they don't have their constitutional rights. You think the law should reflect the biblical morals, which is just Christian Sharia. And you think that if somebody isn't a fucking Christian, that they should be able to be deported from the country. What happened to freedom of speech and freedom of religion?
Yeah, I don't, once again, Mormons view them.
What happened to this?
I don't know why this is so hard.
So which Christians do we get to keep? by the way? Which is the right Christian and who's the incorrect Christian? I also want to decide. Do we keep the Catholics? Or the Catholics staying? If I'm going, okay, if I have to get kicked out, a lot of people got to get kicked out, okay? Because I would probably not be deemed Christian enough, I don't think, in his world. Inshallah, okay? Maybe I have to convert.
So
it's really hard when you're saying like things that are so laughably stupid and also super confidently
No, they're
and smugly.
actually historically accurate. You're just, I don't know if you're
really. Then how come I'm reading right
no.
here? It was the recognition of that divisive past by the founder, notably Washington, Jefferson, Adams, and Madison, that secured America as a secular republic. As President Washington wrote, all possess alike liberty of conscience and immunity of citizenship. America's true history. Smithsonian Magazine.
So like I said, everybody look this up. You can Google it. It doesn't really matter. If you look at when this country was founded, again, oh my goodness, out of 13 colonies, I think all but like 3 had established state churches. So if this was meant to be a secular nation, how could that be true? Of course, that sounds idiotic.
No, they can have a church, but I'm reading right here. The United States of America was the first explicitly secular nation in Western history.
Can we use simple logic? Would a secular nation have established churches and states?
I don't know.
The thing is, like, our nation has always been weird when it comes to religion. Like, we were supposed to be a secular nation, but due to how religious many of our population is, it just, like, naturally seeped into government in different ways. That's a problem, not something to be proud of.
And it doesn't matter, because now you're saying that people should be kicked out if they're not following the certain religion that you would prefer.
That's not what I said. Once again, you're listening to emotion.
All right, let me hear it again. What did you say?
I said Joseph Smith. As a Mormon, if you go look up the history of Mormonism, this is why learning history is important. People that are listening and watching. We look at the history of Joseph Smith. He was kicked. Him and his followers were kicked out of multiple states because people didn't like the religion they was trying to.
And you said that was okay.
With the version of Christianity they was trying to support and spread.
And you said you were okay with that, correct?
The reason I said it's okay, because if you look at, even though after the Bill of Rights, you couldn't technically have an established church, these established churches were funded by the federal government well into the late 1800s. And after that, even though it wasn't an established church on paper, you can look at the history and see that each church had basically, not unofficial established churches. And the reason I say that's okay, because when people live amongst people, they have similar values, usually have more peace that way.
So it would be okay to kick people out of the state if they didn't follow the religion of that state.
If there's another state they could go to, I wouldn't mind that.
Should they be deported from the country, you think?
I can't. Are you on YouTube? Streaming on YouTube? Is it gonna be on YouTube?
Yeah. Dude, you can't be like, literally, we should ban homosexuality. We should make it so that homosexuals don't have First or Second Amendment rights, and then be like, wait a second. I don't want to be too offensive. It might get banned. Like, fucking don't be such a pussy. Come on.
You can say whatever you want.
Like, you've gone this far. Now if you start pulling your punches, you just look like a pussy.
Fine.
Nah.
Excuse my French.
I ain't gonna get you like that, bro.
You're not gonna get me in trouble. It's okay.
Yes, I do it. It's just it's okay, bro.
So I'm gonna assume that your answer would be yes, but you don't want to say it. Am I correct?
No comment. Respond. Next question.
Okay. So yeah, this is why I say you're being anti-America, though, because you're saying it should be illegal for gay people to adopt. It's a violation of the 14th Amendment.
No. He didn't just say it should be illegal for gay people to adopt. He said it should be illegal to engage in sodomy, which means it should be illegal to be gay, right? So that means if you're gay and you're caught as a homosexual, like, your First Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights, all your rights go away. Like, this is ridiculous. This is silly. No respectable person would come outside and say this and expect to not be met with anything but disgust and just revulsion. Because it's not constitutional, it's not legal, it doesn't make any fucking sense, and it's stupid. Like, I don't understand how he's going on stream and actually saying these things. I mean, I don't know. Look, I think a lot of it is just like, I don't know if he's just trying to purposely be provocative. I don't know if he really believes these things or he doesn't. Or honestly, it might just be he's completely unfiltered. He's completely unfiltered, so he's not holding it back, any of it. Well, he just admitted he is filtered, because he's specifically holding back things he wants to say because he's scared for Hunter's channel, apparently. I don't believe that either. My God, man.
And it hurts disabled kids. So that's what you're advocating for. Then you say the Constitution's only for moral people. This doesn't make any sense. And again, that if we went your route with Christian Sharia, then we would have people getting locked up for drinking or getting drunk or anything really. And then they would also be stripped of their constitutional rights, which at that point, you no longer actually have constitutional rights if you could just lose it for a fuck up sometime. So yeah, this is why I say that you're obviously and apparently anti-America. You have a vision of how you would like America to be, and it's far more in line with how some of these third world super strong Islamic countries are. So maybe you can go over there if that's what you would prefer. But here in America, we have freedom. Here in America, people have the right to live their lives freely so long as it's not hurting other people. And when you have gay people who are not only not hurting people, but benefiting society by adopting kids, and you're against this, saying it should be illegal, I don't know how you reconcile this.
By the way, I know what I've said about HunterAvallone and the like speaking down to people. I will say I feel like he's earned it. I'm sorry, like at this point, it feels like it's just this guy's shifty. I don't feel like I feel like he was specifically avoiding the questions earlier. He's not like he's not being honest about what he believes. He won't say it on stream. He's saying, "Oh, I don't want to say that what I really believe. I don't want to get you in trouble." Like he doesn't care about HunterAvallone getting in trouble. This is just at this point, like I feel like HunterAvallone could just go completely gloves off, right? Like that criticism I made earlier is completely null and void at this point.
Oh, easy. Because you're not being intellectually honest when you say I'm anti-America, because you say I have a view of what I want America to be, which is fairly interesting to me because we don't have to go back far in history to see that exactly what I'm saying is exactly what America was. Like I'm talking about like quite literally exactly what I'm saying. This was the law. So when you claim that I'm anti-America, no.
Is that an ISIS flag? Oh, I didn't even notice that was there. Oh, it just kind of appeared there. I guess he just, like the flag must have just felt very spiritually connected to this guy. Let me remove it. I'm sorry. I don't know how that got there.
You're a liberal, and I hear that you used to be a Christian conservative. My girlfriend said she used to watch you.
Yeah, I did used to be a conservative and a Christian. Yeah.
So interesting to me. I would love to chat about that, but I mean that's neither here nor there. But so when you look at the history, when you claim that I have a view of what I want America to be, this is intellectually dishonest, since every single thing I've said was literally the law in this country in all 50 states.
Why does this matter to you?
Into the 50s. Wait.
I don't think there was ever any point in American history where the law was if you're gay, you don't get your First Amendment or Second Amendment rights. That I don't believe that was ever the law.
Can you at least admit?
At one point, okay, yes, I will admit that at one point, sure, some of the laws in America were fucked up. Yeah.
Not
at
some.
one point, hold on. At one point, slavery was legal in America. Does that mean
Right.
it should be? Maybe I can get up here and advocate for slavery and say, well, what? Not too long ago, this was the norm in America. Just if something used to be a certain way doesn't mean that it should be. That's not an argument. You're just appealing to history.
So once again, slavery predated America. That's why if you look up the American history, there was literally black slave owners.
You are such a weasel. I don't care. Obviously, wait, hold on.
Okay, I'm gonna give a hot take. I'm sorry if this is not woke enough, okay? But I don't think black people should be able to own slaves either. I'm sorry. So that's like the equal opportunity, like lib version of like, oh, the 1850s. Maybe also the black people can own slaves. The equality. Like, no, I don't think anybody should be able to own slaves, including black people. As crazy as that sounds.
Obviously, slavery existed prior to America. I don't think America came along and fucking invented slavery. However, for a long period of time, slavery was legal in America. Right. You're saying, well, at one point it was legal to lock people up for this or ban people for certain religious beliefs. Okay, well, at one point it was okay to lock people up on the basis that they were black people. Should that still be allowed?
Yeah, so the clear difference is I'm a Christian, so I'm talking about Christian values. Secondly, the reason I brought up what the law should be because you lied and said...
In the Bible, it gives explicit instructions on how to beat your slave. Can I just, actually, let me bring this up. I mean, I don't know if this is an unknown fact. Let me see if I can bring this up in a second. We can read it.
And I have a view of what I want America to be, but this is not America. This is not what America based on, and you can leave. That was your statement. All I'm doing is correcting you and making you get back to your honest ways and tell people that this is not something I want America to be. I'm basing my views on how America was. Is that true?
Yes, and this is why I'm responding to you. Hold on.
Awesome. And
your version of what your version of what you want America to be is more in line with how America may have used to be in certain times. However, America's also changed significantly. This is why America is
Okay, here's the instruction. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result, but they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property.
The free country.
For anybody curious, that was Exodus 21:20-21.
That we live in. People can live their lives freely. They can live their lives if they're gay freely, or if they follow a different religion freely. So that's why I said that. So now I want you to answer my question. At one time, slavery was okay in America. If I say I want America to have slavery again, is that warranted because America used to have slavery?
Oh, again, I wouldn't. If you say it right now as a white man, like if you was a racist and you said, I want to go back to slavery, you have the right to do so, and you wouldn't, and I wouldn't respond and say you're trying to create a new America. No, America used to be that way. I would disagree because again, that has nothing to do with my values. Obviously, as you said earlier, I'm trying to push my values, which is absolutely true, and you do too. If everybody would just admit their truth, I am trying to push my values, and I think this is how it should be, and I would vote this way, and I would think
Sure.
it. So
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. Yeah, I obviously everybody's advocating for their own values. The difference is that your values hurt people and make the world a worse place, and my values don't. That's really the big problem. Is
do you really think taking rights away from people isn't making the world a worse place? Like, I mean, just like on a base level, like if you're saying like, look, I'm just saying these people shouldn't have First Amendment rights. I'm just saying these people shouldn't have Second Amendment rights. I don't think gays should. I don't think non-Christians should. I don't think and you're like, making the world a better place. Is it really that crazy that you're getting a reaction from people? Yeah, I think it's worse. I think it's bad. I think you're making the world a bad place. You're trying to actively advocate for people to have their rights taken away.
Your values trample over the Constitution, trample over people's constitutional right to freedom of religion and equal treatment. Your vision of America, your goals, make it so that make it so that kids who need a home won't get adopted by loving gay parents. That's why your worldview makes the world a worse place. My worldview is let people live their lives freely so long as it doesn't hurt other people. And it turns out that gay people adopting kids who are disabled is actually a really good thing. So I'm okay with that.
So now we get into the true disagreement, and this is the most honest part of the conversation. You have a different worldview than me, which is obvious, and you believe that your worldview is better. Now I can easily prove that it isn't better, depending on what you value more in life. Do you value morality more? Do you value society more? Do you value people more? If you do, then your way of viewing society is objectively worse.
How
right?
so?
Oh, easy. So homelessness in the United States of America now is one of the highest homelessness rates in the world as far as large and established countries. Obesity, same thing. Depression, same thing. Kids born out of wedlock, same thing. Suicide rate, same thing. Drug addiction rate, same thing. Everything negative everything negative you can think of, America currently is in the front of the pack with. Maybe not
it's not what the fuck, we're not in front of the pack of the world in any of these things. When it comes to developed countries, some of these things we're not the top in, or we're doing really bad in, but now he's just exaggerating for effect.
Number one in some cases.
Like if you're gonna go to corruption or homelessness or any of these issues, we're not top of the pack on these issues. Like we're not the best on these issues, most certainly, but we're not top of the pack. Like we're the number one nation in homelessness. Like get out of here.
As far as large and established country, we're number one in a lot of these situations. Versus if you
a lot of these. Wait, so he just like threw a bunch of them out, and like a lot of these were number one in. Well, then say the ones were number one. Whatever. I don't know why I'm trying to act like this is an honest actor. Well, honestly, he might be very honest, just slippery.
To a theocracy. Right, because of these theocracies, they have to worry more about war. Yeah, I agree. I'll give you that. Okay, cool. In some Middle Eastern countries, they have like a sort of a pedophilia problem that they don't view as pedophilia. I'm not saying it's all good, obviously, but look at homelessness. Like in certain countries in the Middle.
Okay.
Please, I can leave $100,000 just sitting on my car, leave the car running, and I can walk away from it and come back, and that's $100,000, and my car will be still sitting there. I don't even know where you live. I'm currently in North Carolina visiting my.
By the way, that's not true. There are very few Middle Eastern countries that you could leave that money sitting on your car, walk away, come back, and it's still there. The only place there's like very few, and they're just like in the major cities protected by the most elites of society, where you're not seeing the vast majority of people. You're just seeing like the literally tourist, like like Dubai type situations where you're like in a capital city surrounded by cops and the most elite of that society are all surrounded there. That is in a scenario where maybe that could happen, but that's not the majority of the Middle East at all.
Family, but
Like this is like a cartoon version of the Middle East.
you know that if you did that in America, that'd be gone like this. So we do have an immorality problem in this country that is way worse than it used to be, and I can easily attribute that to the way you, Hunter, view the way the world should be.
Okay, so it's a little ironic that I was kind of making fun of you for wanting to go to like an Islamic country, and now you're kind of on board with that. So I do want to point out the irony there.
Oh my
why do you think that is, though? Do you genuinely think it's because they're all religious and moral over there, the Islamic countries with the pedophile problem? Why do you think that there's less crime over there?
Oh, I'm gonna
Also, like, this is like, what do you mean less crime over there? Do we like? Do we really trust Saudi Arabia or Dubai to like be honest with their crime statistics anyway? With the way that the regimes operate, do we really trust them? We know how Saudi Arabia has treated journalists. Like, I don't want to get into the specifics, but like, there's a bunch of countries where the crime rate is 100% higher than in the United States. Like, I don't know why he has this perspective of the Islamic world. Like, oh, you're not going to get mugged in the Islamic world. Yes, you will. Yeah, in many places you'll get mugged. The drug trade in Syria is fucking horrible. You know how many drugs actually come out of Syria in the Middle East? It's insane. Like, there's a lot of like drug trade in the Middle East. There's a lot of, I mean, like, people know about Afghanistan and opium. Like, I don't want to get into specifics, but like, there is like a lot of crime and drugs and bad things in the Middle East as well. I just feel like he has like a storybook version of them in his head.
To you in a secular way, because I don't want you to think I can only use religious arguments. So my secular reasoning is simple. When people in one country align on something, then obviously you will fare better if people have similar values. Like in this country now, there's people like me and you currently. We're both Americans. It's not even like a small difference in values. We have completely different views of what correct values are. Secondly, when they make you follow a strict law, then they follow. A perfect example, you're less likely to steal if you get your hand cut off. The same reason people that rob, like robbers, people that rob people, they're less likely to rob somebody that they know have firearms in the homes, right? I mean, the same thing it's the same thing in the wild.
This isn't true, though. Sorry to cut you off, but I would like to correct some misinformation. Increasing the severity of punishment does little to deter crime. Laws and policies designed to deter crime by focusing mainly on increasing the severity of punishment are ineffective, partly because criminals know little about the sanctions for specific crimes. So a lot of the times, like the crime in America that we deal with is due more so to poverty and also proximity. People live closer in cities, for example. That's why you see higher rates of crime. So even if you are able to point other countries and say, look, they all follow this strict religious law and they're doing a little bit better, it's not just It's not just get better outcomes. It's also achieve those better outcomes in a way that is non-discriminatory. So when you're talking about outlawing gay people or cutting people's hands off if they steal, none of that actually is helping to make the world a better place. None of that is helping to make these Islamic countries better. We just read now about how harsher penalties don't deter crime. We also know that there's nothing wrong with being gay and that gay people are benefiting society by adopting kids. So you have to help me understand why.
No, wait, can I respond to that first part real quick? You can claim, like, I just read something that said this. I mean, you can claim that all day, which is fine. But for some reason, contrary to what you just read, I would rather believe my own 2 eyes of statistics. Look at the crime rates in America versus crime rates in these countries with Sharia law. Look it up yourself.
Okay.
I mean, so at this point, look up the death crime rates, look up the murder rate, look up the suicide rates, look up all of these rates. Now you can make a claim that a study said harsher punishment doesn't deter criminals, but I would simply have to disagree because of just simple numbers. And with that being said, you just hit it on the head, though. The second part you just said is the issue with this conversation. You said it doesn't mean you do it in a discriminatory way. Okay, so you value certain things more than others. I mean, and that's fine. You value
American rights. Yeah, that's something that I value. I understand that might be a little foreign to you, but the thing is when you bring up low crime rates in these other countries, the problem that you're making is that you might be right that there are less crime or lower crime rates in these other countries, but you're attributing it to something that we are not aware of. So when you say the reason the crime is low is because they're religious, you don't know that. I could equally make a crazy claim and say the reason the crime rates are lower is because it tends to be warmer temperatures over there. No, that doesn't make sense. We have to look at, why do homicides occur in America? Why is crime committed in America? These other areas, they handle things differently.
Okay. Convict, you said Soyboy just argued it's okay to lock a murderer up for only 2 weeks. He didn't say that. But it is true. There's a lot of data actually showing that the death penalty doesn't really reduce crime that much, if at all. That, like, sentencing somebody to 30 years in prison versus giving them the death penalty doesn't really change much. That at that point, when you're in that margins of like these high level punishments of 30 years in prison, 40 years in prison, 50 years in prison versus death penalty, like making it harsher and harsher at that level, it doesn't really change crime rates that much. There is some data to show that. That doesn't mean like at no point harsher penalties decreases crime rates. I don't agree with that. Like if you increase the harsher penalties at some levels, I do think it can have an impact. But once you're like at the 30, 40, 50 year level, like it's going to be marginal if not impactful at all. Oh, and weather does actually have an impact on crime. You're saying, oh, weather for some reason. Actually, yes. Summers usually have more crime than winter. I don't know if you've ever heard the data about like ice cream consumption and crime actually travel very close together. And that's not because ice cream makes people very violent. It's that the times when people eat ice cream is usually when it's hotter. And when it's hotter, that's when crime is more likely to occur.
And that's fine. But as far as America goes, if you want to talk about crime rates, our goal should be to reduce poverty. Poverty is directly correlated with crime. So that is a way that you can go about fixing the crime rates. Advocating for some Christian Sharia is not going to achieve what you want it to achieve. Again, I'll go back to the first example I already gave, which is back in the 1950s, when I'm sure you would say America was far more Christian and moral then, gay people were still existing. They were just living shittier lives, forced into the closet. So it's not like that actually gets rid of gay people or gets rid of these problems. It's almost like it just puts a Band-Aid over it so that you don't have to see it.
So back to what you said about the Middle East, when you claim that this can't be the reason, you sort of you excluded most of the reasons I said, which is fine. I understand.
I think you should really drag this back over into the anti-freedom conversation. That, look, you talking about taking away the rights of people for engaging in homosexual acts is unconstitutional. No legal scholar would agree with this. Extremely theocratic and anti-freedom. You're advocating for an anti-freedom theocratic nanny state. He should be hammering more on this than like delving into the crime rates of Middle Eastern countries.
But once you add in all the reasons I said, unless you can find me another reason why crime is low there, that'd be interesting. Secondly, you said the reason why. Secondly, you said the reason why crime in America is heavy is because of poverty. Let me simply debunk this for you. Right? Who do you think is more in poverty? People that live in Ghana or people that live in the inner cities? Who do you think fares worse?
I'm pretty sure you're going to say Ghana, but again, this is different. These are entirely different regions, okay? I'm talking about American poverty specifically. We know this because you can see other people who, when they live in poverty, commit crimes, like white Italians when they first immigrated.
Do you think if we just was like, okay, guys, if you mug someone now, it's 30 years instead of 20 years in prison. This is like drastically going to bring down muggings in the United States. Like just the like hammer and like not everything's a nail. You can't only fix every problem with a hammer. It sounds like everybody just saying, oh, we have a disagreement with this country, bomb them and invade them, like it's the only solution on the planet.
Immigrated here had higher crime rates.
As long as you don't change the conditions that people are living under, the environmental factors, he was talking about environmental factors on homosexuality. Same thing is true when it comes to poverty and crime. Until you change those environmental factors, crime is going to continue to exist in high rates in the United States.
It's because they were living in poverty. When the poverty decreased, the crime decreased. Second of all, with you just said, until you can give me something better, it's fine to attribute it to the morals or the Sharia law. This is literally the fallacy of ignorance. That's what it's called, is where you're saying, because we don't have a better answer, I'm just going to stick to whatever my feelings tell me. This is the snowflake way to argue.
Okay, listen. It wasn't once again, you're trying to discredit the argument without any statistical evidence or anything to discredit the argument. You cited an article, but the statistics are in front of my face. And the reason I say that is because there are documentaries, there are things about it. Like, if you want to be honest, ask anybody that has been to the Middle East.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Let me finish. They will tell you it's because of the religious values. You can disagree. That doesn't make it untrue. I don't know what else to tell you, because this is just the truth. Maybe you don't know it, but it's okay. It's fine. And the reason I brought up Ghana is because poverty, but they have a near zero per 100,000 people murder rate. So if we go back to here and you say is poverty, I would be silly to say that poverty doesn't play any role in it. But if you talk to these kids in Chicago, I do all the time. I have podcasts talking to them. They will tell you that, they'll do it anyway. Like, the reason they're having, and I'm using Chicago as a specific example. Obviously, there may be different cases in different areas, but in Chicago, it's really just about get back. You killed one of my friends, I want to kill you or your friends. And that's how it goes back to back. They tell you in the music, they tell you in interviews that it's not solely about poverty. These kids literally, this is just what they want to know. Now, we could argue about the root to that. If they were brought up in a different area, a different part of the country, would it be different?
I'm sure there's cultural stuff that plays a role there as well.
Yeah,
of course, but
I'm not saying poverty doesn't play a role at all, but I think people overestimate the role that poverty plays in the crime, if that makes sense.
So then why is it that in America, at least, when you see people living in poverty, they have higher crime rates, but then when they're not in poverty, the crime goes down? It's not a causal thing, to be clear. I'm not saying if you are poor, you will then commit crime. However, if you're living in a neighborhood that is disproportionately poor.
At Dylan Burns TV from Site Chat, can you take Bryson seriously? He sounds like a guy who sucks his thumb. Stop. Look, it's not that I take him seriously. There's a lot of people on the internet we shouldn't be taken seriously, period. Like, this conversation's already ridiculous, where once he said that constitutional rights should be taken away from those who engage in homosexuality. At that point, the conversation basically should have been over. Him saying that should have been right there, like, boom, this is a non-serious person. This person has non-serious political beliefs. The vast majority of people would hear that and they'd cringe. Even Mike Pence would hear that sentence and be like, what? And if Mike Pence is reacting in that manner to you, then there's like a problem. So at that point, the conversation should have been over. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't find people on the internet who's going to agree with this guy, or this guy cannot be influencing his following. So it's still important to push back against these ideas. But, like, there's no chance, like, HunterAvallone is going to convince him of anything. There's nothing that could be said here to convince him of anything. If he's already so down the rabbit hole that he's talking about taking away the First Amendment rights of those who religiously disagree with him.
Poor, you're in a lower socioeconomic situation. It is more likely that crime will take place there as well. If there's more,
like, under his framework, atheists straight up don't get the First Amendment right. Like, this is ridiculous, unconstitutional. Founding fathers did not design it, so only Christians got the First Amendment rights. That's not true. They didn't even design it that way. And if they did, that'd be a silly way to design it. It would have been good if it was changed.
Or crime, that increases poverty, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So poverty is something that plays a big role in criminal activity. So if we could work to reduce the crime in some ways, then we could, or reduce the poverty, we would then see a decrease in the crime as well. This is just a sociological fact at this point. When you say ask anybody, the crime rates are lower over there, ask anybody isn't really a very compelling argument, but even more so, I'm not even disagreeing with you. I'm saying, fine, I would have to look it up to be sure, but for the sake of argument, fine, I'll concede. Yes, the crime rates are lower over there. But again, you would need to demonstrate why that is. This is why when people try to say, look, America's more depressed nowadays, clearly it's because the gays or something, it's just incorrect. And it's faulty logic, because you can look at a problem, sure, but the problem does not tell you the cause of that problem. And you're applying the cause. Or in this case, you're applying the solution. You're saying, well, it's got to be because of Sharia law. We don't know that.
Okay, so just respond. The first thing you said, I agree 80% on. So now we find some common ground, right? I agree 80%. We were talking about poverty and things of that nature. The only issue here is I agree with the last part. I believe that if you change the culture, as somebody that grew up in the Black community where these crimes happen, if you change the culture, I feel like that would change. That will change the issues going on, because there's going to be people that live in poverty. This is reality of anywhere in the world. So when you look at other cultures that are in poverty, poverty, they still commit crime less than people that look like me do when they're in poverty, and that's a statistical fact. The question is, how do you fix that? Well, poverty.
Be done with this. We've been watching this for 15 minutes. I don't think we're going to get anything more substantial out of this. Now they're talking about crime rates. They're completely off the topic of the conversation. I feel like Hunter should be dragging it back to asking him, like, do you think atheists should be denied the First Amendment right for not believing in God? That's what I think they should be hammering it on, because that statement right there is so un-American, so anti-freedom, so theocratic nanny state, that moving on to crime rates just feels silly, because he's basically saying that as long we can deny you your constitutional rights as long as I feel like it might bring down the crime rate, which is silly. It's like completely like saying that the needs of society are more important than the needs of the individual, which I do understand that every society balances it to some degree, but he's just completely disregarded the rights of the individual here. That's not even to talk about that I don't even necessarily agree that his policies that he's promoting, like, for example, making being gay illegal, is going to bring down crime rates. Actually, inherently, it's going to increase crime rates because he just made being gay illegal. My goodness. I'm done with this clown. I think that's it. We get it, idiot. We're done.